Tanya woke up to the sound of chirping coming from the kitchen. Her alien roommate Zira was making breakfast again. The smell of something sweet and fruity filled the air. Tanya stretched and got out of bed, wondering what strange food Zira had prepared. This time Zira was tall with bluish skin and 4 arms. She moved gracefully around the kitchen, her antennae twitching with excitement, when she saw Tanya. "Good morning, I made you something from my home planet," Zira said, placing a bowl of purple jelly. "Substance on the table, it tastes like your Earth strawberries." Tanya smiled and sat down. She had been living with Zira for 3 months now, ever since the Galactic Alliance had established relations with Earth. Humans were still adjusting to the idea that they weren't alone in the universe. The jelly tasted better than Tanya expected, sweet with a hint of spice. "Thanks, this is actually good," she said between bites. Zira beamed, her skin glowing slightly, which happened when she was happy. "Human, foods are too solid for me, but I enjoy making them for you after breakfast." Tanya got ready for work. She was one of the few humans working at the new alien embassy in town. Her job was to help aliens understand human customs and behavior. When Tanya arrived at work, her boss Krill was waiting for her. Krill was from a desert planet and resembled a tall, thin lizard with golden scales. "We have a problem," Krill said. 4 diplomats from Nexus 7 are arriving today, but their translator is sick. You are the only one who has studied their language." Tanya felt nervous. She had only been studying the complicated clicking language of Nexus 7 for a few weeks. "But I barely know the basics," she said. Krill placed a hand on her shoulder. "You underestimate yourself, human. Your species has an amazing ability to adapt. That is why we value you in the Alliance." The meeting room was filled with tall, insect-like beings with shimmering wings. Their ambassador, Tkik, approached Tanya and made a series of clicks and whistles. Taking a deep breath, Tanya responded with her own series of clicks. To her surprise, Tkik seemed pleased. "The ambassador says you speak our language with the accent of their northern region," Krill whispered, an impressive compliment for her. The next 2 hours Tanya translated as best she could, occasionally using hand gestures when she didn't know a word. The Nexus 7 diplomat seemed patient with her mistakes, even clicking in what she recognized as their version of laughter when she accidentally used the wrong word. By the end of the meeting, Tkik presented Tanya with a small crystal. "We give this to those who bridge worlds." The ambassador clicked. "You have honored us with your effort." Back at home, Tanya showed Zira the crystal. It glowed with shifting colors in the evening light. Zira gasped, her 4 hands covering her mouth. "Do you know what this is?" she asked. "This is a memory crystal. They are extremely rare. Even on my planet, only ambassadors have them." "What does it do?" Tanya asked, turning the crystal in her hand. Zira took the crystal and placed it on the table. "It can record and store memories," she explained. "Not just images, but feelings too. It's how their species preserves their history." Tanya was amazed. "How do I use it?" Zira showed her how to activate the crystal by pressing certain spots in sequence. The crystal projected a hologram showing the vast cities of Nexus 7, filled with towering structures that looked like they were made of light. That night, more aliens from the embassy came to see the crystal Plix. A small furry creature with 6 eyes brought strange fruits. Vora, who came from a water world and had to wear a special suit on land, brought glowing algae for decoration. Soon their apartment was filled with beings from different worlds, all sharing stories and food. Tanya sat among them, listening to tales of planets with 3 suns, worlds covered entirely by ocean, and civilizations that lived in the clouds. When she went to bed that night, she could hear the aliens still talking in the living room, their voices a mixture of clicks, hums, and words from languages across the galaxy. The next morning, Zira woke Tanya early. "We have a surprise for you," she said, her antennae wiggling with excitement. Tanya followed her to the living room where all the aliens from last night had gathered. They stood around something large covered with a sheet. Krill stepped forward. "Yesterday you showed us that humans truly can bridge the gap between our worlds," he said. "You learned our languages, tried our foods, and welcomed us into your home. Now we wish to give you something in return." Plix pulled away the sheet, revealing a machine with a seat and a helmet attached. "What is it?" Tanya asked. "It is a star mapper," Vora explained with a gurgling voice. "It will show you our homeworlds as if you were truly there. Tanya sat in the chair and Zira placed the helmet on her head. The room disappeared and suddenly she was floating in space. Stars surrounded her, billions of them glittering against the darkness. A voice that sounded like Zira guided her. "This is my home system," she said. 3 planets around a blue star. Tanya felt herself moving through space, approaching a beautiful world with rings like Saturn, but in shades of purple and green. She could see cities built into massive trees that reached toward the sky. For hours, Tanya visited the homeworlds of her alien friends, seeing oceans that glowed at night, deserts with crystals taller than skyscrapers, and cities built beneath the ice of frozen moons. When she finally removed the helmet, she was crying. "These are happy tears," she explained to the confused aliens. "This is the most amazing gift anyone has ever given me." The aliens gathered around her, some placing hands, tentacles, or paws on her shoulders. "We have a saying on my world," Krill said. "The universe provides many paths, but friendship makes the journey worthwhile." That evening, after everyone had gone, Tanya sat with Zira looking at the night sky through their window. "Do you miss your home?" Tanya asked. Zira thought for a moment. "Sometimes," she admitted. "But Earth has something special." "What's that?" Tanya asked. Zira smiled, her skin glowing softly. "You humans. You face the unknown with such courage. When our ships first arrived, many species would have reacted with fear, but yours reached out with open hands, ready to learn. That is rare in the galaxy." Tanya hadn't thought of it that way. "We were scared too," she said. "But curiosity won out, I guess." The next day at work, Tanya was called to a special meeting. The head of the Galactic Alliance was visiting Earth and wanted to meet the human who had impressed the Nexus 7 diplomats. The Alliance leader was unlike any alien Tanya had seen before, a being of swirling energy contained within a special suit. When she entered the room, the air felt charged with electricity. "I have heard much about you, human Tanya," the leader said in a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "Your ability to connect with different species has not gone unnoticed." "Thank you," Tanya said, unsure how to address such an important figure. "The Alliance is establishing a new program." The leader continued. "We wish to send human representatives to different worlds as ambassadors of your species. Would you be interested in becoming the first?" Tanya couldn't believe what she was hearing. "Me, an ambassador to another planet? You have already proven yourself," the leader said. "The Nexus 7 rarely give memory crystals to outsiders. You have a gift for understanding other beings." That night, Tanya told Zira about the offer, her mind still spinning with the possibility I would be gone for at least a year. She said, "Would you come with me?" Zira hugged Tanya with all 4 arms. "Of course, the Alliance has asked me to be your guide since I have experience with humans." They stayed up late into the night talking about which planet they might visit and what adventures awaited them. The universe had suddenly become much bigger and full of possibilities. 3 weeks later, Tanya stood in the launch bay of the Alliance ship Starbinder. Her parents had come to see her off, hugging her tightly before she boarded. "Make us proud, honey," her mother said through tears. "And send messages when you can." "I will," Tanya promised. "I'm scared but excited too." Her father squeezed her shoulder. "You were always looking up at the stars as a kid. Now you're going to visit them." The ship was enormous inside, with corridors that seemed to go on forever. Aliens of all shapes and sizes moved through the halls, some nodding to Tanya and greeting others, staring curiously at the human in their midst. Zira led Tanya to their quarters, a comfortable room with 2 sleeping areas, 1 normal bed for Tanya, and a strange hammock-like structure for Zira. "Home for the next month," Zira said, "while we travel to Luminara. My home world will be our first stop." Tanya placed her small bag of belongings on the bed. She hadn't brought much, just some clothes, photos of her family, and a few small items from Earth that the Alliance scientists had asked her to bring as cultural samples as the ship prepared for departure. Tanya felt a mixture of excitement and fear. She had never even left her home country before, and now she was leaving her planet entirely. The EA ship's engines hummed to life and a voice came over the speakers. "Please secure yourselves for departure. We will achieve light speed in approximately 20 Earth minutes." Zira showed Tanya how to use the safety harness on her bed. "This is just a precaution," she explained. "The artificial gravity should keep us stable, but first jumps can sometimes be bumpy," through a small window. Tanya watched as Earth grew smaller and smaller until it was just a blue dot among the stars. A lump formed in her throat as she realized how far she was going. The journey to Luminara took 4 weeks. During that time, Tanya learned more about the different species aboard the ship. She took meals in the common area where food synthesizers could create approximations of dishes from hundreds of worlds. Zira introduced her to the ship's medical officer, a tall, willowy being named Elara, who had pale, translucent skin through which Tanya could see the outline of her organs. "Humans fascinate me," Elara said, examining Tanya with large, pearlescent eyes. "So much genetic diversity in one species. Your DNA contains so many possibilities." Tanya spent hours in the ship's library, learning about Luminara. She discovered that Xeris people, the Luminar, were one of the founding members of the Galactic Alliance. There, technology, especially in the areas of energy and environmental science, was among the most advanced in known space. The day they arrived, Tanya stood at a viewing window watching as the ship approached Luminara. It was even more beautiful than the hologram had shown. Rings of purple and green dust surrounded the planet, while the surface below was a patchwork of deep blue oceans and land masses covered in what looked like gigantic trees. "Welcome to my home," Zira said, standing beside Tanya. "The trees you see are our cities. They grow naturally, but we shape them over centuries." The ship docked at an orbital station, and from there they took a smaller vessel down to the surface. The landing platform was nestled in the branches of an enormous tree that must have been miles wide at its bases. Tanya stepped out. She felt lighter than on Earth. "The gravity here is only 80% of Earth's," Zira explained. "You might feel a bit bouncy at first." The air smelled sweet and fresh, filled with unfamiliar scents. Tanya took deep breaths, enjoying the feeling of alien air in her lungs. "It's beautiful," she said, looking around at the structures built into the living tree. They seemed to have been grown rather than constructed, with walkways and platforms extending between massive branches. A group of Luminars approached them. They looked similar to Zira, but with variations in skin color from pale blue to deep indigo. Their antennae moved in patterns that Tanya realized must be a form of communication. "My family," Zira said, stepping forward to embrace them. They touched antennae briefly. Then Zira turned to introduce Tanya. "This is my friend Tanya from Earth," she said in English for Tanya's benefit. The first human ambassador to Luminara. Tanya's translator device converted the clicking sounds the Luminars made as they greeted her. "Welcome, Earth child," said one with silver markings along her arms. "I am Nyala, Zira's mother. We are honored to host you." The first few days on Luminara were overwhelming. Tanya stayed with Zira's family in their home, which was a series of chambers grown within the massive tree. The walls were alive, pulsing gently with light when touched, and the furniture seemed to be part of the structure itself. Growing from the floors and walls, Zira's family was patient with her confusion, showing her how to use the strange bathroom facilities and explaining the customs around meals. On Luminara, food was always shared communally, with everyone taking turns to place items on others' plates as a sign of care and friendship. Tanya began her official duties as ambassador, meeting with Luminara government officials. These meetings took place in a grand chamber, high in the upper branches of the city tree, with views that stretched for miles across the forested landscape. The officials were interested in everything about Earth, from its diverse ecosystems to its many cultures. Tanya showed them images and videos she had brought, answering countless questions about human life. One evening, after a particularly long meeting, Nyala invited Tanya to a special ceremony. "Tonight we celebrate the bloom," she explained. "It happens only once every 10 years, when the city trees flower dressed in robes Zira's family had given her." Tanya followed them to a platform near the top of the tree. As night fell, thousands of Luminars gathered on platforms and walkways throughout the massive structure. When the 3 moons of Luminara aligned overhead, the tree began to glow. Soft light pulsed through its branches, spreading upward until it reached the highest points. Then, with a gentle sound like distant music, thousands of enormous flowers began to open. Their petals were bioluminescent, shining in shades of blue and purple, and releasing glowing pollen that drifted through the air like tiny stars. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Tanya whispered, tears in her eyes. Nyala placed a hand on Tanya's shoulder. The bloom represents our connection to all living things. She said, the trees give us life and in return we protect them. This symbiosis is the foundation of our society. As weeks passed, Tanya learned the Luminar language. Her translator was useful, but learning to communicate directly showed respect for her hosts. She found the clicking sounds difficult at first, but gradually improved after 3 months on Luminara. Tanya received a message from Earth. A new group of human ambassadors had been selected and were being sent to other Alliance worlds. Her program was considered a success. The message included data from Earth scientists with questions about Luminar, technology, especially their sustainable energy systems. The Luminars used a form of energy generation that created no waste or pollution, drawing power directly from the trees themselves. Zira took Tanya to meet with Luminar scientists who explained their energy system. The city trees absorb energy from our sun, but they use only a fraction of it for growth. The lead scientist Thala explained, we have developed a way to harvest the excess without harming the trees. Tanya was fascinated. Is this something that could work on Earth? Thala considered the question. Perhaps with modification. Your planet has different vegetation, but the principle could be adapted. The Luminar Council agreed to share their energy technology with Earth in exchange for human art and music. Something the Luminars found fascinating was human creativity. They were particularly drawn to music which affected their antennae in ways that seemed pleasurable to them. One evening, Zira found Tanya sitting alone on a balcony, overlooking the forest. Are you well? She asked. Her antennae drooping slightly in concern, Tanya smiled. I'm fine. Just thinking about home. I miss it sometimes. The simple things, like rain and the sound of birds. Zira sat beside her. We have something similar to your rain, she said. Perhaps you would like to see it. The next day, Zira took Tanya to a different part of the planet where smaller trees grew in dense clusters. Unlike the giant city trees, these were about the size of Earth redwoods, but with translucent trunks through which Tanya could see liquid flowing. Zira led her to a clearing and checked a small device. The timing is right, she said. It should begin soon. As they waited, the air grew warmer and more humid. Tanya noticed the trees around them beginning to glow faintly. Then with a soft hissing sound, the trees released fine mist from their highest branches. The mist caught the light of the setting sun, creating rainbows that danced between the trees. As the mist fell, it became droplets, warm and fragrant. It's not exactly rain, Zira explained, but we call it the evening tears. The trees release excess moisture this way. It helps smaller plants grow. They stayed in the gentle shower until darkness fell. Then something magical happened. As night came, the droplets began to glow with bioluminescence, creating the effect of falling stars all around them. It's beautiful, Tanya whispered, reaching out to catch the glowing drops in her hands. They walked back to their transport, both glowing faintly. From the residue of the luminescent rain, Tanya felt closer to understanding the Luminar connection to their world. As her first year as ambassador approached its end, Tanya was given a choice. She could return to Earth or extend her stay for another year. Without hesitation, she chose to stay. I still have so much to learn, she told the Alliance representative, and so much to share with Earth. Her second year brought new responsibilities. The Alliance asked her to help prepare for the arrival of the first Luminar ambassador to Earth. She would return home temporarily to help the Luminar adjust to Earth conditions. The ambassador selected was Nyala, Zira's mother. I'm honored, she told Tanya, but also nervous. Your world seems so strange with its solid buildings and changing weather. Tanya smiled, remembering her own fears when first arriving on Luminara. I'll help you, she promised, just as Zira helped me. Before leaving Luminara, the council presented Tanya with a gift, a small sapling grown from the city tree. It was kept in a special container with its own ecosystem. This is a child of our home, Thala explained. With proper care, it will live for thousands of years. It will never grow as large as our city trees in Earth's gravity, but it will thrive. It is the first of its kind to leave our world. Tanya was overwhelmed by the gift, knowing how sacred the trees were to the Luminars. I will protect it, she promised. The journey back to Earth seemed shorter somehow. Tanya spent the time helping Nyala prepare, teaching her about human customs, clothing, and food. Nyala was particularly concerned about Earth gravity, which would be stronger than she was used to. She will need time to adjust, Zira explained. But our bodies are adaptable like yours. She will grow stronger. When Earth finally came into view through the ship window, Tanya felt a strange mix of emotions. She was excited to see her home and family again, but Luminara had become a second home to her.